All right, we're here for another episode here on Penn State, Voice of College Football. And we have myself, Andy, Nick, our co-host, and special guest Kevin here from the Paws podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, happy you could make it with us here. So we're on week 2. College football's back. Everybody's kind of got a game under their belt. How did week 1 go for you guys, and what were you surprised with?
Yeah, look, it was a good week. I can't ask for a better win against a team like Bethune-Cookman. 42-9. Don't allow a touchdown for the first time since 2019. 6 rushing touchdowns, which is the most in program history, or at least tied for the most in program history. Overall, I couldn't ask for a better game. I think a lot of it you have to take with a grain of salt. But again, when it's kind of a sigh of relief. And FIU's had a lot of struggles against FCS opponents last year, losing to Monmouth. Year before that, only winning by 2 against Maine, and the year before that, which is the first year of Mike McIntyre, winning, and I think it was triple overtime against Bryant by 1, 38-37. So to go in there, beat a team like Bethune-Cookman, probably the worst of those FCS teams, honestly, but still, just it was a sigh of relief. It was nice. But again, have to take it with a grain of salt because now you're going from the worst team you will possibly play this year to the best team you will play this year. So
now, you said that there's new coaching this year with Coach McIntyre. Have you seen a difference in the program since he's taken over? Like, do you see the program moving in a certain direction that you like?
Yeah, 100%. It's much better than it was in years prior. Coach Mac, nothing against him, just unfortunately it wasn't working out. They have to make the move. You can't go 4-8 for 3 straight seasons with, especially with the team they had last year. A lot of people believe that team was a bull team, and it comes down to coaching at the end of the day. And so this is a Penn State. An FIU team that now led by Willie Simmons, new staff, a lot of excitement, probably the most excitement I've seen around this program since I want to say the 2018-2019 seasons, which FIU was pretty damn good. So they're trying to get back to that level, if not even more than that. So yeah, 100%. Willie coming in, trying to set the culture, set the foundation of that culture, which is one of the biggest things. And it was a fine culture. It wasn't a great culture. A lot of issues last season with that team, from what I understand. So it's completely different. They have 7 Fs, and one of those is family and fun. And those are the 2 that they've really been harping on and emphasizing throughout for spring, fall, and now obviously week 1. And they want to bring the fun back to football. And a lot of players, my understanding is they lost the love for the game, with that last coaching staff the last couple of years, and they felt like they're bringing that back, and they're instilling that into players, and they're enjoying being at FIU, and they're enjoying playing college football.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that, James Franklin's had to kind of bring everybody back to, too, with such high expectations. Is, remember, this is supposed to be fun at the end of the day.
Exactly.
One of the things I saw from the FIU game was, like you said, 6 rushing touchdowns. Like that's impressive against anybody. I know it's Bethune-Cookman, but is that the identity that FIU wants to have?
Yeah, look, I mean, the last couple of years, FIU's really struggled to run the ball. And this is the first time since 2023 FIU has that marker of rushing yards, 223. It was exactly that amount against North Texas 2 years ago in that win. But I think, FIU in the last couple of years has really relied on the passing game, and specifically just targeting the main guys. Eric Rivers last year, and I know Penn State fans are aware of that name. He's a guy who had over 1,000 rushing yards, broke the school record for most yards in a single season, broke the school record for most receiving touchdowns in a single season. Before that, you had Chris Mitchell, who I know his brother is on the Penn State team as well. So he broke that same exact record except the receiving touchdowns. But FIU, for the first time in program history, had 13 different players record at least 1 reception in the game against Bethune. So it just shows that they're going to spread the ball around a lot more this year. Willie Simmons noted this, that he feels good about 10 to 11 as receivers. And those are freshmen too. 3 of them are freshmen. Tyson Carter, Kenny Williams, Amari Isaac. I'm sure they'll be in the game at some point. But I think maybe from week 1 to week 2 is where you see the biggest jump for your teams. And that's one thing that he noted and he wants to see. There was a lot of bad penalties, and, he expects that to change, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest things. They want to run the ball to open the pass, and then eventually find the balance between both, something that we hadn't seen in previous years, where they relied heavily on the pass. They had extra blockers with tight ends, but now you're going to see more usage on your tight ends, small of 11, 12 personnel. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this looks. I think we saw a pretty fine balance. Keywan had a fine game, wasn't the best game he could have had. But they've been in Big Ten territory before. They've been in SEC territory. And for some reason, they end up playing pretty well against those teams, almost beating Arkansas. Indiana, that game was one of the closer games Indiana played all season when you end up looking at it. So I don't think that will be the case for this Penn State game, but hopefully it is at least through the first half.
Now, Kevin, you said that, it's with 6 rushing touchdowns. That's a lot. So the running backs down there, is there one guy to take a look at, or is this more of a running back by committee type thing down there? Like, what should we expect to see from FIU?
Yeah, it's going to be more running back by committee, but the main name to look at is Keyshawn Owens. He entered the transfer portal, Miami Central product, withdrew his name to return to FIU. But they've said this from the spring. They believe they have running back 1A, 1B, 1C. It's KJ Owens, Anthony Carey, Devontae Lyons. Anthony Carey, Georgia Tech transfer, had a career high in rushing yards in his last game. Got a little bit of run at Georgia Tech, but comes to FIU, better opportunity. Was very big in the passing game for FIU last week against Bethune. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that continues to be the case. Willie Sims is actually looking to really see how his running backs stack up against this Penn State defense. Probably won't be great, but should be fine enough. And then you have Devontae Lyons. He's a redshirt freshman. Played in the final 4 games of the season for FIU. Was the only FIU running back to have an 100-yard rushing game in a single game last season for FIU. So just goes to show how bad the running game for FIU was last season. So I think we'll see a lot of those 3 guys who split their reps pretty evenly. They played them quite a bit. So I think that'll be the case. And they'll try to get the run game going against what is probably the best defense in college football, maybe top 2. So it's got to be up there.
Yeah, with incoming defense coordinator Jim Knowles still working out some kinks. Nevada didn't really get going until the 2s and 3s came in last week, but they're still working through some things with communication and that type of stuff. There is a history between Penn State and Florida International. They played once before in 2007.
Wasn't great.
Scores 59-0. Unfortunately. Is Penn State kind of the biggest crowd FIU will see or has seen?
Yes. It's as simple as that. Yeah. that was actually that 2007 game was actually Mario Cristobal's first ever game here at FIU. So not a good start for him there, but ended up being pretty good. Sun Belt champs at one point and all that. So you'll take it.
Yeah. Is there any preparation happening for the noise, or is it just kind of they've been in big stadiums before and it's
it's the same stuff, right? I mean, the put up the crowd noise a little bit, put up the music a little higher, but realistically, no. I mean, they've played in big crowds before. That Indiana game, I'm sure, was a sellout crowd. Obviously, not as big as Penn State, but they've played in those crowds before. Willie Simmons noted it. Like, he played Texas A&M once. He was the Clemson quarterback. Like, he's been in these crowds before. Florida State, he was had to play against. So he's aware of this. Now, obviously, it's a pretty young team. A couple guys who've obviously been in Big Ten territory before, like P1, KJ, and then you have guys coming from the power conference level. So not the only ones that I'm sure they've seen some crowds. Like I asked, for example, Anthony Carey. He says like the Virginia crowd, the Virginia Tech crowd was the biggest one he's seen. So this will probably be the same, if not more. So yeah, they're preparing for it. Definitely are. You have to. You have no other option.
So that being said, this being the number 2 ranked school in the country right now. So I don't know if you have any insight. What does FIU see as a success in this game? What do the fans and the coaches want to see coming into and coming out of the Penn State game?
Yeah, just keep it close until the half, right? I think that's what you hope. Obviously, the biggest thing is come out healthy. Don't get hurt. Limit the injuries. When you're out of it, just throw in your 2s and let's get it over with, right? Collect your check and let's get out of it. So I think that's the biggest thing. I would like to see a competitive game up until the 3rd, hopefully, right? I mean, just for the sake of it, not to get bored watching this game. But I think that's the biggest thing. Just come out healthy, because next week you have your rivals, Florida Atlantic in the Sugar Bowl game that FIU needs to win. Like, they really need to win that game to make sure that you could scrape out 6 wins for a bowl game. So, I think just coming out healthy is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I know last year Bowling Green pushed Penn State till 3rd, 4th quarter. So it's not something that's impossible to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe you guys would agree. I think FIU is the toughest of the non-con for Penn State. I know it's I don't want to say cupcake non-con, but it is pretty there. It's kind of theirs. And I think FIU would be the toughest of those 3 opponents.
Yeah, we just found out this week that originally this was the week we were supposed to play Virginia Tech at Penn State. but COVID canceled those plans, so we didn't go there in 2020. So they canceled the return trip in 2025. So this was kind of a meshed together in the last 5 years instead of scheduled out 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
With that being said,
go
ahead, Andy.
Well, I was going to say we've kind of focused on the offense. What would be the strengths or weaknesses on the defense for FIU?
Yeah, I think James Franklin noted this guy, Brian Blades. He's the cornerback for FIU. I think that if there's any guy that would make it to the NFL or would get drafted, they think it's this guy. They think he's really good. Obviously, the last name speaks for itself. A lot of family ties there with that one. But, yeah, he was one of the top-rated coverage corners for PFF last season. They really like him. They think he's really good. He was chosen to go to the Conference USA Media Days alongside Kewan Jenkins and Willie Simmons. So they believe he's the leader of this defense. Then you look at the edge rushers. A lot of change there, but one returner who is starting is Keegan Davis, put up career-high numbers last season on all aspects of the game. On next to him is Kenton Simmons, who another edge rusher. I know Franklin also mentioned him as one of the bigger guys on the team that kind of fits the part with the Big Ten. So hopefully he had a sack in the last game. Hopefully that continues to be the case in this one. But, yeah, I think the defensive line is going to be a big thing to watch for. Safeties is another big situation for FIU. They rotated them a lot in the last game. They've been doing that since the spring. But worth noting, they are rolling out a true freshman to start, Josiah McGrew, long guy from Florida State Seminole College, high school. And, yeah, they really like him. They think he's really good. They think he's been making plays since the spring, and they believe this is a guy who's really going to come in and help them out right away. They have him. They have Shamir Sterling, a redshirt freshman. Then you have Websley Etienne. You have Antonio Patterson there. Demetrius Hill, another Big Ten opponent that I believe got hurt actually in that Penn State game a couple years ago. So tough for him, but comes back. That's probably an opportunity to get some revenge, hopefully. And, yeah, there's a lot of guys in that safety room that they really feel good about. Similar to the wide receiver room, they're going to rotate a lot of those guys.
So it's almost like it seems like the DBs, the defensive line is almost going to be like a rotation, trying to keep fresh bodies in there, try to keep Penn State on their toes kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, they really didn't rotate quite as much last week in the defensive line. It was more the safeties, more the DBs that they really rotated, but because they have some big dudes in that defensive line, they just have to keep there. Like, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the first name. They call him Big Sue. You guys can search him up. Number 19, I think he is. Huge dude, Marshall transfer, massive, like probably one of the biggest dudes I've ever seen step foot into this FIU campus. So he is huge. Then you have Quaylen Hill, who benches 700 pounds, squats 700 pounds. So those videos are all over Twitter if you want to find them.
Oh my God.
I've been told that is one of the hardest dudes to move in practice. So hopefully that's enough to hold on to Katron Allen and Nick Singleton there for a little bit. But yeah, I think that defensive line certainly was a question coming into camp and coming into the season, but certainly I think just how big they are and how much bigger they are in years past really is going to help and how much stronger.
That's going to be interesting too, because against Nevada, Penn State's run game did not look good at all. So I'm very curious to see how it's going to stack up against a guy who can literally squat 700 pounds. That's insane.
Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, I think another one of the matchups, like you said, with Blades is Penn State brought in all new receivers, and Nevada was pretty weak on the secondary. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get open against Blades and some of these more athletic defensive backs.
Definitely, yep.
Do you have any predictions for us, a score prediction?
Well, I think FIU will keep it close until the half, but I do think it ends up being a 55-14 win for the Nittany Lions.
All right. Well, thanks, Kevin, for joining us. Pleasure to have you. And, go FIU the rest of the way.
Yeah, right. Paws up. So thank you guys for having me on, and we'll see how this goes on Saturday, right? So
absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you,
so
Kevin.
much, guys. Yep.